Now, if you've just tuned in, we are talking with Kristy Wood this morning about issues to do with children and teachers in today's climate. Now, Kristy, what are some of the steps that parents, families and teachers can take so we don't have to resort to behaviour management techniques the majority of the time? I think we sort of touched on this question, but maybe you could elaborate even further. How do we not always have to be sort of saying, no, don't do that, no, go to your room, do this, that horrible Nazi fascist type attitude? God knows I certainly don't have it. I'm a perfect parent, don't you know? But, so you've got any advice for that?
Sometimes that is what's needed. The thing that I'm learning, because I haven't always been the way that I am with kids now, the more that I learn that, the more care that I put into how I am with myself, that impacts on the quality that I am with the children. And the quality that I am with the children impacts on the quality that they are with each other. So the more that we put into actually looking after ourselves as parents and teachers, the deeper the quality is, and the kids feel that. The kids instantly, when I'm with them in a group, feel the quality that I offer them, and they respond to that. So for me now, sometimes I have to deal with quite difficult children, and sometimes the behaviour's there, and sometimes I do need to be very, very firm, and cutting of that behaviour, not of the child but of the behaviour, and recognising that behaviour is just showing me something, and that isn't the child. So, I think it's stepping back from the situation, firstly, and just going, okay, so what's actually going on here? So being aware that we're not just stepping in the reaction, because if you say no, put it down, in the reaction of what they're doing, the kids will often escalate. But if you come in and you observe and you think, the loving thing to do right now is to be very firm, and you do it from that place, the response that you get from a child is very, very different.
That is so beautifully said. And I think sort of going back to what you were discussing earlier, Kristy, too, with that's a difficult task for both parents and teachers. But I'm thinking particularly for teachers, to sort of look after yourself as such. One of the issues that I think is very concerning and unfair for teachers is they're often invalidated. They're not hugely respected, or people don't say thank you to teachers very often. Let's put it that way. And that can really sort of feel, at the end of a very long term or a year or after several years, it's like, what am I doing? I don't feel like a bit of a thank you goes a long way. So I think if all parents could maybe reach out occasionally and say thanks to teachers, that makes them feel a bit more whole. Would that be okay to sort of say that? Do you think?
Yeah, if you genuinely appreciate the job that the teacher is doing for your child, absolutely express that.
Indeed. Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to behavioural management techniques, can you explain some of the techniques that schools are using at the moment?
I think a lot of schools are really struggling in some ways, and a lot of teachers are not knowing where to turn. There are so many extreme behaviours that are being displayed that we're just trying to cope and get through the day and get by. That we're not really having the time and the space to really go, okay, things have increased, what's going on here? We're putting in programs into schools, like teenage drinking has increased, dramatically, and what kids are doing with that. So we put in a safe drinking program, but we don't go the next step and go, actually, why are you doing that in the first place? Sorry. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you.
And
or you see a lot of reward systems, and generally they're for the child who's displaying the most extreme behaviour, and it's almost and they get a reward. So it doesn't work for all the children in the room, because that child learns, if I resort to these extreme behaviours, I may get a star on a chart, or I may get whatever it is that they get. And the other kids learn, for me to be seen, for me to be recognised, I either need to be the best speller, the best at this, and identify myself in that way, or I need to be the naughtiest kid in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're not equally seeing all the kids for who they are. It's become about just managing and getting through, and those who do well and make the day easy, yep, great, thank you, you'll be seen. And those who are reacting to the fact that they're not being met, and that there's a great sadness and hurt for those children who are then displaying extreme behaviours, they get recognised for those behaviours in, it may be discipline or detention or whatever it is, but it's still, they get something, they get looked at.
So what's an alternative form of behavioural management then?
When I started to really see what was going on in my classroom with that, for me, I made it that the room didn't start till I had at least looked at every kid and I knew where the kids were at. You know, so there was one boy in my room who I knew, you know, you could kind of get a sense before the kids arrived at school that something may be up, or the way that that child was starting to behave over the few weeks, that, you know, they may come to school a certain way. So I would be waiting at the door, at the classroom door for him, knowing that when he arrived, he would need a bit of time. So I, you know, used to just have a stash of library books that I would, you know, go out and go, can you help me to walk these, you know, books back to the library? Right. I think over the year I took those books back and forward 50 times, the same books. But that was what he needed. He needed somebody. Sometimes we would talk about what was going on, sometimes we wouldn't. It was just the fact that he needed someone to be with him at that time. So, you know, and then when I started class, you know, it would be, okay, you know, the kids would come together and we would sit in a circle and would go, hey, how's your day? You know, have you seen, you know, what happened on your way to school? And we would just talk so that the kids had a connection with me, they had a connection with each other.
That's right.
And it wasn't me, the focus wasn't me, the teacher in the room, which it often is in classrooms. If I'm sitting here reading the role, you know, you respond when you're spoken to. It's a dialogue that the kids start to respect and speak to each other and connect with each other before anything is done.
Okay.
That's a really fantastic approach, Kristy. I must say, I love it. I love it a lot. And I'm thinking this... sort of with that also, I think with that validation again that you're talking about, that I acknowledge you as a human being, as a young little person over there, and then I guess when that happens too, that then helps them. It's like us as adults, really. That then helps them feel I'm an okay person. I'm acknowledged today, and therefore I will therefore show respect to the person who's next to me, and it flows.
Totally.
And what I'm hearing from that is really just having a sense of connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's almost connecting the children. You're connecting to the children. They're connecting to each other.
Yeah.
So they're almost building their own little kind of tight-knit community.
Absolutely, and it became so amazing with that group of kids. The deeper that we got with each other, and the more love that there was in the room for each other. You know, the kids didn't react to each other. So behaviour management I didn't have to do, because they would go, hey, you know, don't pass me my book like that. And, you know, what's going on for you today? And the kids were doing it for each other because they weren't reacting to each other's behaviour. They were seeing, you know, hey, there's a person here, something's not right. And I remember one day I went to school and I was completely off, and there was something that I was upset by, and I just went into, I just want to get through the day. Kids, get out of the way, go away. And I went to my desk, I sat down at the room and I was like, guys, we don't have time for a circle this morning. This is what we're doing, going straight into work, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the kids were like, no, we don't start our day in that way. And I was like, no, you know, come on, we're busy, you know, because I just didn't want to have to deal with to deal with them, because I wasn't dealing with how I was.
Stuff, exactly.
And it was quite funny, and they really honoured that. And I went to my desk and I was like, fine, if you don't do any work, you can sit there. And, you know, I walked away from them for 20 minutes and sat at the computer, and they sat in the circle and they stayed there.
Wow.
And I was like, and this was a group of 8-year-olds, and I was like, wow. And I was like, fine, if you're going to be naughty like that, you can just do that. And one of the kids was like, we're not being naughty. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, fine, you can all stay in at lunchtime. We've got work to do. If you're not going to do that, you can stay in at lunchtime. And they were just like, if we have to, we will. And I was like, wow. And I, you know, tried to ignore them for 20 minutes, and they just sat there. And then I went back and sat above them again on a chair, and I said, okay, you know, what's going on? What do you want to talk about? And they said, no, we don't do it like that. And I went, fine. And I walked away again and left them, and they didn't talk. They weren't mucking around. They just sat there. Wow. And then eventually I came back to them and I said, look, guys, I'm really sorry.
I'm sorry. Good on you, Kristy. Good on you.
And then they just said, hey, you didn't look at any of us this morning. That's not how we start our day. And they didn't need to, you know, I didn't need to go in what was going on for me or whatever, but they just pulled me back.
That's right.
And it was amazing. So it wasn't me controlling the room.
Absolutely.
It was, this is how our room is.
That's exactly right.
And thank you for being so honest about that, because, you know, teachers are definitely people and are definitely not perfect at all.
It's not about being perfect.
God knows, nowhere near it. And I think I agree with Maz. I think the honesty for anyone, as parents and teachers, to be able to say, you know what, sorry, like I'm somewhere else right now. This is not your issue, small person. This is mine as some sort of capable adult. And it's just every time it occurs, whether in a teaching or a adult a parent role, the kids 99 times out of 10, over 100, beg your pardon, will say, that's cool. No worries. Don't worry about it, you know? And it's a beautiful thing. It's just like, wow, if only I could be that kind most of the time sometimes.
Children are actually very forgiving.
They are indeed.
They are.
Yeah, when that's one thing I found as a parent, you know. Children can be I've been in a similar role, but not in the classroom, but at home.
Yes.
And, you know, and just have to come back and say, look, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
And that's okay, Mummy.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful
And it's
thing.
great for us to be able to do that because the kids feel how we are. The kids know, regardless of how we say
Absolutely.
it, or what we're saying, we can put on the nicest voice. But the kids may know that we're completely angry.
Absolutely.
And so then when we actually do acknowledge that, it confirms to the kid, hey, what you're feeling is true.
Yeah.
So there's a great power and a great healing for the children in, then trusting themselves more.
That's it.
And they can't be fooled by what people are saying.
Absolutely. Well said. Now, Kristy, beg your pardon, Maz?
No, that's what I was just going to say, bringing that, broadening that out again. How, as a community, can we support children to help them take responsibility for themselves and learn how to be with others as a community?
As a community, one of the things I think is not underestimating children.
Yes.
Children are very, very aware, and so we don't need to tell them full details. Sometimes it's not appropriate to do that. But to really just go, hey, look, this is what's going on, and to talk to them about, what is going on, and to really not just give them a brief answer, but really sit with them and spend time with them, and so that they are heard. And then, they have the responsibility to make their own choices within that. Because in the groups that I run, the kids aren't always, really well behaved or whatever. But I come back to going, okay, to be with me in this group today, this is what I expect, and this is behaviour that needs to happen. If you can't choose that, that's okay, but you need to leave.
Absolutely.
Or whatever, so that the responsibility and the choice is put back onto them.
Okay.
Indeed. That's a fantastic approach.
Excellent.
Look, Kristy, it's apparent, it's obvious actually, that you're a very wise and wonderful woman, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you in this morning and talking with us.
Thank you. It's been great.
Oh, it's wonderful. More conversations like this in the world would make the world a better place, that's for sure. Now, if people in the community, some of our beautiful listeners out there, are interested in the work that you do and would like to get in touch with you, Kristy, how do they go about that, darling?
At the moment, I can feel that there is a need for us to support uni students in just bringing this awareness to the classrooms before they start teaching. So I'm offering a workshop in a few weeks' time that will focus on how to set up your classroom in a way that it is a caring and supportive environment for children, and how to maintain yourself within that. So if you're interested in details, I can also provide workshops to schools or places that work with children, or support to individual teachers if that's what they're looking for, and families. So currently on Facebook, a web page is coming, but there is one on Facebook called Kids in Connection.
Kids in Connection.
So if anybody's interested, you can go onto that to find out more information.
Beautiful.